how do you set up your multiply position? Like, what do you do? What are the steps you go through for it?
Yeah, so I think around choosing a multiply position, it's very similar to borrow. But I think, again, thinking about the questions that users should really go through is similar. Same thing to start is, what do I want to get more exposure to? What am I happy to get more exposure to? For me, I really think about wrap staked ETH, Rocket Pool ETH, even raw ETH as very similar, even though some have a staking reward and some don't. That's fine for me. So yeah, really need to think about that. Then even the same as borrow, you really need to think about, well, what am I comfortable borrowing? Again, for me, same thing. It used to be just DAI, but today I'm happy to do USDT. I'm happy to do USDC. I'm happy to do DAI, whatever. All are good for me. Then the next thing you need to really consider, again, is the LTV. And the same thing applies here, but I think it's even more important when it comes to multiply, just because of the nature of what you're doing. Like, you want that, or at least I want that liquidation price to be as low as possible. And I want to be able to get more of a max multiple, is what we call it on the interface, which makes it really easy for you to see, like, can you go, it's very correlated or one-to-one correlated with the LTV, higher max multiple, which means you can take more risk, so to speak. You can get access to more and more, like being able to get more of the underlying in one transaction. But it also means that if you don't actually use all of that buying power, so to speak, you'll have a lower liquidation price, which for me is very important. And you're going to pay for that. It's going to be expressed in the borrow rate. But you should really think about and consider that when you look at the borrow rate, you have to think, well, unlike a borrow position where you have a very defined upside, so to speak, if you're doing a yield spread, that's really important to think about the borrow rate, because it's going to impact your P&L in a material way. Or if you're taking on a loan for something to use in your real life, that borrow rate really matters, because you're going to have to pay it back, and you're going to be counting the pennies to pay it back. But when it comes to multiply, if you really get it right, it's not to say that the cost doesn't matter. Obviously it does, but it matters a lot less than something like borrowing for those other use cases in a borrow position. So yeah, borrow rate, LTV, max multiple, what do you want to borrow in terms of the debt, what you want to borrow against in terms of the collateral. Those are the major considerations. As well as the two last things that I think would be great to talk about in a little bit of depth is also token rewards. Is that something you care about, being like getting token rewards in order to multiply? Maybe, maybe not. And then lastly, the really important one for me at least, and a lot of other users, is automation. Because I think it's really something that can make or break your plan, your bull market plan, if you use automations right. So yeah,